थैंक यू। नियम 377 के अधीन सभा पटल पर रखे जाने वाले मामलों के संबंध में अध्यक्ष पीठ द्वारा की जाने वाली घोषणा जिन माननीय सदस्यों को आज नियम 377 के अधीन मामलों को उठाने की अनुमति प्रदान की गई है, वे अपने मामलों के अनुमोदित पाठ को 20 मिनट के अंदर व्यक्तिगत रूप से सभा पटल पर रख दे। श्री सुब्रमण्यम जयशंकर जी।
Sir, Speaker, sir, I rise to apprise this august House of the key foreign policy engagements and initiatives taken by India since the budget session which ended on 6 April 2023. The period witnessed several crucial high-level diplomatic engagements, including interactions of the Honorable President, the Honorable Vice President, and the Honorable Prime Minister with foreign counterparts in India and abroad. I myself visited a number of nations, as did our ministers of state. And we received many of our foreign colleagues here in India. Through these efforts at multiple levels, we were able to advance our national objectives and interests in a volatile and uncertain world. In terms of the diplomatic engagements of the Honorable President, she hosted the King of Cambodia from May 29 to 31 on his first state visit to India. This marked the celebrations of the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Cambodia. Honorable President was the chief guest of the celebrations commemorating the 150 years of arrival of Indians in Suriname in Latin America in June. She was conferred Suriname's highest distinction, the Grand Order of the Chain of the Yellow Star. Speaker, sir, I think this is a matter of pride for all Indians. Honorable President also visited Serbia in the same month. Honorable Vice President visited the United Kingdom on May 5 and 6 to attend the coronation ceremony of King Charles III. He interacted with various leaders, including the presidents of Germany, of Israel and Brazil. He also met Indian students and diaspora members. In June, Honorable Vice President engaged his counterparts in Zimbabwe and Gambia in New Delhi and received the Deputy Prime Minister of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. During this period, Honorable Prime Minister visited 7 countries, and each of these visits, Speaker, sir, is notable and should be appreciated by all members of the House. Bilateral visits were made to Australia, to the United States, Egypt, France and UAE. Prime Minister participated in the Quad and the G7 meetings in Japan, and he co-chaired the 3rd FIPIC Summit in Papua New Guinea. He also hosted the Prime Minister of Nepal and the President of Sri Lanka in New Delhi. Sir, the official state visit to the United States of Prime Minister Narendra Modi from June 20 to 23 was only the second by an Indian Prime Minister. He was also accorded the rare privilege of addressing the joint session of the US Congress for the second time. He is the only Indian Prime Minister to have done it twice. In Washington, D.C., Prime Minister was given a formal state welcome at the White House. As a special gesture, the US government had invited nearly 8,000 members of the Indian diaspora to witness the arrival ceremony. Prime Minister held bilateral talks with the US President on June 22nd. President Biden hosted both a state dinner and a private dinner in honor of the Prime Minister at the White House. The Prime Minister interacted with CEOs of tech companies individually, as also in a round table that he and President Biden co-chaired. He invited them to strengthen their presence in India and their operations here. Prime Minister addressed young entrepreneurs and participated in a skill and innovation meeting along with the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden. Sir, this was truly a path-breaking visit, and I would like to highlight the key outcomes which are reflected in the joint statement. They are: 1. Both sides agreed to augment technology cooperation, especially through the initiative for critical and emerging technologies, which focus on artificial intelligence, semiconductors, space, quantum, and telecom. India was included as a member in the Mineral Security Partnership, which aims to accelerate the development of critical energy mineral supply chains. 2. Under a defense industrial cooperation roadmap, the defense industries and startups of both countries announced their intent to engage in co-production and other activities. A US company, GE Aerospace, announced that they would manufacture jet engines in India through the transfer of technology to Hindustan Aeronautics Limited for our light combat aircraft production. So this is a very, very important outcome. It has been our effort as a country to try to get engine manufacturing for the last 40 years. So to get this during this visit is truly something which the country should appreciate. 3. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, signed the Artemis Accords with NASA, the US National Aeronautics and Space Administration, for cooperation in civil exploration of outer space for peaceful purposes. NASA and ISRO announced that they would cooperate in human space flight and launch a joint effort to the International Space Station in 2020. 4. The two countries resolved 6 outstanding bilateral trade disputes in WTO through mutually agreed solutions. This is a very unusual, very exceptional way of resolving trade matters. And again, sir, is something which the House should note and appreciate. The two countries agreed to strengthen collaboration between our respective SMEs and to boost innovation linkages. In the semiconductor domain, 3 American companies, very well-known companies, made announcements to build a semiconductor assembly and test facility in India and for training Indian engineers and workforce. 6. In the telecommunications sector, both agreed to collaborate towards a bilateral trusted network, trusted sources framework, enable participation of Indian companies in the US RIP and Replace program, and undertake ORAN reciprocal projects. India and the US agreed to also accelerate cooperation in the field of green hydrogen. 7. To deepen people-to-people ties. And all honorable members should have an interest in this particular part of the cooperation. Because we have a diaspora of 4.4 million Indians in the United States. The US has decided to open 2 new consulates in Bengaluru and Ahmedabad. India will also take steps to operationalize a new consulate in Seattle and look for 2 other locations. 7, we agreed to strengthen education partnerships, and the US agreed to return 105 antiquities that were illegally trafficked to the United States. 9, given our shared vision of free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific, we agreed to commence an Indian Ocean dialogue, and the US will support our Indian Ocean, the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. And 10, India and US will work together for the development of digital public infrastructure and also strengthen our cooperation in multilateral banks to address global challenges. Sir, honorable members, I think all honorable members would be interested to know that Prime Minister himself led the 9th International Day of Yoga on 21 June at the UN headquarters in New York. It involved 135 nationalities and it set a Guinness World Record. World record, sir, for the number of countries for any single event in leaders meeting in Hiroshima on 20 May 2022. At the Quad meeting, the leaders reviewed recent developments in the Indo-Pacific and discussed opportunities for Quad to work further on its priorities. They released a Quad leaders' vision statement. They announced a new clean energy supply chain initiative, a Quad infrastructure fellowship program, a Quad partnership for cable connectivity and resilience, and we will be working together, sir, for the first ORAN deployment in the Indo-Pacific in Palau. The leaders released a Quad statement also on critical and emerging technology standards, apart from reviewing the progress that we have made on our maritime domain awareness initiative. They launched a Quad Investors Network, and I am happy to inform the House that Prime Minister has invited all Quad leaders to India for the next summit in 2024. So, Prime Minister participated in the outreach summit of the G7. He held meetings with 14 presidents and prime ministers, as also the UN Secretary General. The details are there in my statement. With regard to his landmark visit to Australia, the Prime Minister held a meeting with his counterpart on May 24th, signing the Migration and Mobility Agreement was one of the highlights of the visit. It shows the commitment of the Modi government to support students and explore the global workplace. During his stay, the Prime Minister interacted with a very wide array of public figures, participated in a business roundtable, and addressed the Indian community, sir. I think we all had the privilege of seeing it in person. Many of us watched it in this nation on our television screens. And definitely it was one of the most memorable visits made by any head of government to Australia. And I think many honourable members would recall the words with which Prime Minister Albanese greeted Prime Minister Modi, calling him the boss. So I wish to also add that during the visit, Prime Minister announced our intention to establish a new consulate in Brisbane, and this is something which we will be doing for the benefit of Indians abroad as well as for NRIs very, very soon. Sir, I would now like to say a few words about Prime Minister's visit to France. He was a guest of honor at the Bastille Day. The Bastille Day is the national day of France. It is like our January 26th. We had a tri-services military contingent from India, including the Punjab Regiment. Punjab Regiment, sir, has a great history in France. It helped to defend Paris during the First World War. And Prime Minister, sir, was given the rare honor of being conferred the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor. This is France's highest civilian award. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the recipient of this award. He held meetings with the President, the Prime Minister, the heads of the two chambers of the Parliament, with CEOs of Indian and French companies, and we announced the setting up of a new consulate in Marseille. We also released a vision document about our strategic partnership that goes on till 2047. On his way back, Prime Minister visited the United Arab Emirates. In Abu Dhabi, he held talks with Sheikh Mohammed, the President of the UAE, and it resulted in three very important outcomes: the trade settlement in our national currencies, the interlinking of payments of central banks, and the establishment of a campus of IIT Delhi in Abu Dhabi. Prime Minister received the President-designate of COP28 because we will have a very notable role to play at that gathering. A month before this visit, sir, Honorable PM paid a state visit to Egypt. It was the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister in 26 years. He held talks with the President of Egypt, and we elevated our ties to a strategic partnership. We signed agreements in agriculture, in preservation of monuments, archaeological sites, in competition laws. We announced direct flights between Delhi and Cairo and a center of excellence of IT in Cairo. In a special ceremony, sir, this should be a matter of great pride for all Indians, for all members of this House. Prime Minister was conferred the Order of the Nile, which is the highest state honor of Egypt. Another notable development, sir, during this period was the co-hosting of the third summit of the Pacific Islands Forum, jointly with Papua New Guinea on May 22nd. Prime Minister was received with great warmth, with great courtesy when he arrived in Papua New Guinea. And sir, I think all members would have seen how the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea paid his personal respects to our Prime Minister in a manner in which so traditional in India. And I think it speaks great volumes today of India's standing, of Prime Minister's standing in the world. During his stay in Papua New Guinea, sir, Prime Minister was conferred the Grand Companion of the Order of Logohu by the Governor General of PNG, the Companion of the Order of Fiji by the Prime Minister of Fiji, and presented with Ebaka, which is a symbol of leadership and wisdom, by the President of Palau. Each of these gestures, sir, I think should be noted and appreciated by members, by all citizens of this country, because it collectively, it reflects well on all of us. On the outcomes of the FIPIC Summit, sir, I want to say that we launched the Sustainable Coastal and Ocean Research Institute in Sabha in Fiji, the data warehouse for empowering Pacific Island countries, which will host geospatial data. This will be in Papua New Guinea. And we announced a range of health, IT, education, and public delivery initiatives, from a 100-bed hospital in Fiji to an IT center to Jaipur foot camps to sea ambulances. So our development partnership today is something which is making a very deep impact among the countries of this region. For the first time, sir, after we joined the SCO, we hosted the meeting of the Council of the Heads of State. It was done by the Prime Minister on 4th July in a virtual format. They adopted the New Delhi Declaration and 2 joint statements on countering radicalization and cooperation in digital transformation. I would like to inform you, sir, that during our presidency, we hosted 15 ministerial visits, over 130 institutional meetings. With the focus, the theme for us was secure, which was an acronym that signifies our priorities. I would now like to talk, sir, about our neighborhood. Engagements with immediate neighbors have been prioritized after the Modi government came into office in 2014. 2 prominent visits were those of the Prime Minister of Nepal and the President of Sri Lanka. Prime Minister of Nepal paid his visit from May 31 to 3 June. He and the PM participated in virtual groundbreaking ceremony of 6 projects, including integrated checkposts, railway lines, petroleum pipeline facilities, and transmission lines. They witnessed the handing over of the Kurtha-Bijalpur section of the railway line. I know many members would have an interest in that. And they reached understandings on electricity imports from Nepal and on sale to Bangladesh through India. We have also committed to expand the border petroleum pipeline infrastructure. Where the President of Sri Lanka was concerned, this was his first visit to India in his present capacity. He had a very good discussion with our Prime Minister, and we covered all aspects of connectivity, from maritime, air and energy to financial and people-to-people. We signed agreements on development projects in Trincomalee district on animal husbandry, renewable energy and UPI interface. Prime Minister, sir, raised issues related to the Tamil community in Sri Lanka, and I hope, sir, that the members of Parliament with interest in this special subject should listen to this. That he reiterated the need to fulfill the aspirations of Tamils. He underlined the importance of implementing the 13th Amendment and conducting provincial council elections. He also took up the issue of Indian fishermen. And sir, you are aware that this is an issue which is frequently raised in this house also. And he requested the Sri Lankans to approach it on a humanitarian basis. May I, sir, touch briefly on the subject of the G20? I would like to assure you that it is advancing. The pressing issues facing humanity are being highlighted. We are focusing on mission life, on the popularization of millets, on a human-centric approach to climate action and development, as well as on use of technology to transform lives. We've had a number of ministerial meetings of the G20, sir, across India, including the development ministers meeting in Varanasi, in Hyderabad, in Goa, in Pune, in Gandhinagar, in Goa, and in Chennai. So we are realizing our intent to make India's presidency a truly national endeavor and showcase India to the world. So I would also like to assure you that ministers of the MEA have been very active during this period. I myself have travelled extensively in Africa and in Latin America. My colleague ministers of state have done so as well. May I say a few words, sir, about Operation Kaveri? This was an operation which was launched because of armed conflict in Sudan. And we used both the Air Force and the Navy to bring back almost more than 4,000 of our citizens. So once again we have shown that the Modi government will never leave its people behind during any crisis anywhere in the world. Where fishermen are concerned, we have been successful in bringing back 74 of them from Sri Lanka and 398 of them from Pakistan. So in conclusion, sir, I would like to state that today we are serving Indian foreign policy serves as a force for good, for stability. We vigorously defend our national interest and we promote international cooperation abroad. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mantri ji.